All right, let's talk about projects. So if you guys are still stuck after today, after I've shown you some of these things, I have many more examples. This is just a list that I asked some of our fellow ESRM faculty. Hey, what projects do you have going on, or would you love to pursue but you just don't have enough time? And you know, how many students might you need on that? So this is not a prescriptive. This is not saying that you need to do X, Y, and Z. This is basically a topic, broad or narrow, that a faculty member could use some help with, and or has some data that you could analyze, and you could take it and run with it and do stuff like that. So since I've generated this list, some of you guys might have talked to some of these professors and, you know, got some stuff going on, and that's totally cool. I'm not trying to, you know, suck up your project. And most, if not all of our cases, these projects can, you know, use several folks. So I'm just going to run through these, and you guys stop me or ask questions. And I flagged the main folks that would be people that you could talk to first. Maybe they're the people you could work with as your mentor. Maybe they're a person that would direct you to another faculty member or another outside person. But these are all contact people, or almost all contact people right here, so I can get you guys going in the next day or next week or so. Cool? So I'm going to go through these, and again, interrupt me if you guys have any questions. So these are in no particular order, just the order I started writing them down. First let me say, again, previous students. So previous students' projects, as we mentioned last time, totally cool place. Take what she did last year, build on it. Take what he proposed 3 years ago, enact the proposal, right? That's all totally good. That's great. So all of the previous capstones are potentially fodder for you. And almost every project, at least for the last several years, one of the things you guys are going to do at the end of this class is you are going to give me, obviously, your poster, obviously your thesis, but also you're going to submit your GIS data files. You're going to submit your Excel, you know, field data, percent cover, whatever it is. So we have all those. And so if you want to build off a previous student's work, you can take that and go forward with it. So that's by design, so that you guys can build off the shoulder, you can stand on the shoulders of your predecessors. And that's not a bad thing. Okay. Projects. So marine debris. So this is a project that is externally funded through NOAA. And this is a project looking at the deposited materials in different areas of our county and Santa Barbara County. So this is looking at marine debris. In particular, one of the things that one of our students from last year, Michaela, found is that compared to some historic data, we're seeing more and or different kinds of debris landing in our coastal zone. In particular, more fishing gear. We're seeing more derelict fishing gear. We're seeing a greater proportion of debris that's plastic showing up on our beaches. And so this is a project that is to do essentially quarterly inventories on the islands and or monthly inventories here on some beaches on the mainland. So if you guys are interested in debris and debris management, you know, fisheries, that kind of stuff, a great project for you guys. So I would direct you guys to either Claire or Cause if that project is of interest to you. Also, I should say, you know, most of these are ongoing projects that are you know, going on. So if you guys have interest in these topics in general, you guys are more than welcome to go talk to one of these professors, even if you're not going to do it for your capstone. I just think at the phase you guys don't have time to do independent study so much. So, but do realize that you could talk to these folks about this. Next is our ongoing stuff about microplastics. So Alex and Maggie, you guys I think are both interested in doing this. Alex more of the organism side. Maggie, right? Sediment or no? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Don't know yet. Okay.
Doing more like population watershed comparisons.
Okay.
But looking at the microplastics.
Okay, cool. So microplastics in the sediment, in the abiotic environment, microplastics in the aqueous environment, right, floating in the water column or in the river, microplastics ingested in organisms. All of those are huge topics. These guys are working on it, but there's way more work than any two people can do. So if that's of interest, I would direct you guys to Claire or myself, but Claire is the just starter one. Great. Next is Dr. Patch Kiki did her PhD on sand budgets up and down the coast, and one of the things she did was look at armoring up and down the coast, but that's a bit old. So she's interested in updating, I should say, that data set. A great example, so for example, the projects we just talked about, field and laboratory based, right? This one, the GIS, is primarily a GIS based thing, right? Looking at photographs, occasionally going out in the field. So we have a whole range of projects. So one of the things you might want to at least give qualitative thought to is your availability. So if you guys have really you have really tough work schedules and you're just going to be really hard to get out in the field, maybe a project that's more GIS based, which is going to give you more time flexibility to work around your other schedule, maybe that's going to be a better fit for you. So, okay. But in any event, so this is doing updating the database of how much of our coastline in California is armored with concrete, with boulders, with whatever the case may be. And talk to Dr. Patch if that's of interest. Then I misspelled. That's a great spelling job there. But this is doing some digitizing of San Miguel and Santa Rosa, some of our channel islands, specifically to look at erosional change. So to look at beach accretion, beach loss, stuff like that. So if that's of interest, again, a computer-based geospatial type project, see Kiki. Another one is using same kind of idea, but instead of using aerial photos over different times, using landscape photos, so from the ground. We've had some students do some great projects of using this over the years, so that's a great one. And then Dr. Patch is interested in finding someone that's interested in doing geomorphology, so shape of the beaches. Measuring the shape of beaches, and that can either be with standard rod that you guys might have done in water resources or stuff like that, or with our new drone technology that we're coming out with, using laser beams and flying robots. So if that's of interest, see her. And in that particular project, that she's specifically, they're trying to see if they can replicate some methods from the East Coast here, and see if they can train school children and other people to be engaged with that. So if that's of interest, talk to Kiki. We have an ongoing project just looking at beach nourishment. So this is our, it started 2 years ago. Another student picked it up last year, so continued on the Capstone project. And if you guys are interested in continuing that would be great to do that again. That particular nourishment is near Port Hueneme. But we also have some nourishment going on in the Ventura Harbor. And then also Broad Beach is just getting ready to be nourished. Broad Beach, the beach in Malibu that has been robbed of sand in recent years. So if any of those things are of interest, if you're interested in nourishment and what that might do to the shape of the beach, coastal resources, etc., see Dr. Patch. Any questions about those so far? I'm going kind of fast. Does that make sense? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. All right. Number next would be Sandy Beach In Fauna. Again, a project that we've had students working on for each of the last few years, monitoring beaches throughout the year so we can look at the changing critters. Great project if you guys are interested in climate change. Great project if you guys are interested in human impacts. We have seen a radical change just in the couple years or 3 years, 4 years, we've been looking at this. And it'd be really great to have someone continue this on. And this is basically doing infaunal surveys, infaunal transects on our sandy beach. So it does not require a lot of equipment. We have everything. And I think it's been a great project if you guys are interested in that. Then we have some students, if you guys are interested in our roadkill data set, that has about 5,000 dead things in it and about 50,000 miles of transects across Ventura County. A lot of you guys have participated in this through Cons Bio Lab. The data set is much more extensive than that, but if you guys are interested in doing analyses, that would be great. This is one of those things I keep saying every year, oh, I should write this up and we should do a write-up on it. And then I get distracted by a million different crises and it doesn't get. So we have now about 11 years of data. So really neat. You can look at the effect of the Springs fire. We can look at the effect of climate change, the effect of drought. And the data set is long enough now that I think we can have, ask some really neat questions. So this would be a great project for you guys. Maybe the first bit you would just sort of clean up the data set and get it all cool and do some initial monitoring, and then maybe, or initial exploration, and then maybe you might test a few hypotheses using that data set, maybe some additional surveys you might do in wintertime or something. Great project if you guys are interested in ecological fragmentation, stuff like that. Same goes for our seafood sustainability project. That's coastal, right? So some of you guys are in coastal this semester, some of you guys have been in it before, but same thing, we add about 5,000 items to the database every year. And we do some analysis in coastal, but we don't have a lot of time, so it's very, very basic. So, so are you thinking about still doing it? So Jasmine has been doing some interesting stuff with Spanish-speaking versus English-speaking communities when we asked them about the stuff. So really cool. Maybe you could collaborate with her. Maybe you could do something different. The data set is so large. It's, again, another project where there's way more work than one person could possibly look at. But a good opportunity to use some of the data that your fellow students have collected over the years. Next is, and those are all me, I guess. Yeah, sorry, my name's up here too frequently, but sorry. Next is our Dudleya project. So that's a project funded by the Fish and Wildlife Service to recover this endangered plant that is only now known from 4 locations here in the Santa Monicas. The entirety of the species burnt. The entire of the species range burnt in the Springs fire in 2013. We went from about 50,000, an estimated about 50,000 individuals, to about, 200 individuals, and of distinct genetic lineages, maybe less than 50. And the drought has come on right after that fire, and so we may well be witnessing the extinction of this species in the wild. So we're doing some stuff, and I need someone that is interested in learning 3D printing to make some fake plants that we're going to plant out there and coat them with foam and do some crazy weird 21st century science, see if we can get these plants to grow. So if you guys are interested in recovering endangered species but also trying some new technologies, see me. Another project that we've had students do for a couple years, we did not have anyone do it last year, and the year before it was maybe not the strongest works that some students did, but we have previous data from a previous couple years, and so this would be using camera traps and or animal track observation. It could be in several spots, but especially right here in Cam Park, right here on campus, because we have a long data set there. And then also that's related to this one, which is also, we have a citizen science group. So if you guys are interested in wildlife, we have a group that teaches you how to track wildlife of all kinds. And we do quarterly monitoring around the county. So a great project if you guys are thinking about doing more ranger type stuff, large animal management. Wonderful project. You guys can get certified as a wildlife tracker in the course of doing this, and that could be great. Owl diet analysis, another project that we have several years worth of data that's sort of paused because the Springs fire came in right after we put in 4. So this is a project about secondary, second generation anticoagulant poisons. So the project was to see if we could augment the barn owl population on campus, and by augmenting the barn owl population, reduce the need to put rodenticide poison out. And it's a great project. We have a lot of data before we did anything different. We put in 4 owl nesting boxes, one of which has a web camera in it in the South Quad. All great, awesome. And then about 4 weeks after we got up the boxes, the Springs fire came through, burned through campus, and killed most of the owls, or at least drove them away. So it's probably time to restart that survey, see how many kites and other birds have come in. But a really cool project looking at historic data. We have tons of historic owl pellets too to analyze. but really pretty cool if you guys are interested in doing diet analysis. Sandy Beach Health Index. I have my name here, but this should be, I'm trying to hand this over to Kiki. So this is using some of the data we've collected. Some of you guys have helped us with this the last few years. Dr. Patch is working on a project that is trying to come up with a way to aggregate all this data together into a single measure for how healthy our beaches are. So if you guys are interested in that, creating indices of communities, you can talk to her about that. Already talked about that one. Related to the roadkill stuff is wildlife crossing monitorings. We've had some students monitor crossings in the past. Great start. We need a lot more data. So if you guys are interested in looking at how large and small things go across fragmented landscapes, that's a great one. We have a professor from up at Cal State East Bay who does a lot of cool sustainability stuff, wants to partner with us to work on ROVs and how ROVs might assist with making offshore mariculture production more sustainable by helping to monitor water quality and stuff like that. So we're still formulating what that project is, but if those things are vaguely interested, that might be a great project. We have a brand new ROV coming in November that should really help with this. Similarly related to that, we need to reactivate our surveys inside and outside of marine protected areas, but we'd probably wait for that November new fancy ROV to show up. But if that's of interest, let me know. Or Dr. Patch.
Professor,
Yeah.
you missed the oil spill.
Oh, thanks. I skipped oil spill. Okay, great. So also, we've been doing various things with oil spills. If you guys are interested in oil spill toxicology, let me know. We have both raw crude samples. We have tarball samples. We have contaminated sediment, contaminated soils. The soils come from the most recent Hall Canyon oil spill end of June this year. So if you guys are interested in that, looking at how we might get oils to break down quicker, how critters respond, either the degradation of oil itself or how organisms respond to that toxin. There's myself, there's several, there's me, man, I'm speaking really well. I don't speak good, I'm hurt. There's me, but also we have some external partners as well. And I have external money to do some of those studies too. If you guys are interested, we have some resources to do some testing and things like that. So if you guys are interested in oil spill toxicity, let me know. Sand dollar beds. We had a great start of a project that got off the ground, but it was a little bit slow. So we'd love for somebody to revisit that. But looking at the sand dollar communities across Southern California, that could be more of a literature review and sort of talking to experts around the state, or it could be on scuba or snorkeling. So let me know. Yeah. So if you're doing scuba, yes, you would need American Academy of Underwater Science Research certification. Remind me about that. I want to talk about that in a second. But just free diving, most of these guys are between 15 and 20 feet. So just this last weekend, I found not a new bed, but a new bed for me down in Orange County. And so that's just snorkeling, right? You can do most of that just snorkeling. It's really shallow. So you don't necessarily have to have AUS for that. That would be really helpful, but you don't need it. Next is there's a whole host of things that are coming up now with the Coastal Commission and some of our other land management, coastal management agencies. A lot of stuff from conversations with various folks, and I have my name here, but this would really be with different agency people. But you can talk to me first. We've spent a huge amount of money over the last 30 years buying land in the Santa Monica Mountains, doing these various things. And we don't really have a great study of that. So how much money did we spend? How effective was that? Was that acquiring land that was available to our underserved communities? Was that mostly in high-end affluent communities? That kind of stuff. Great project, and just so much to do on that. So if that's of interest, that would be one that's more of a kind of research book, literature type stuff, but really could be a really cool project, especially if you guys are interested in planning and stuff like that. Brett is interested in continuing his remote sensing of vegetation across the islands, looking at vegetation change using satellite data, primarily. What does he use?
Landsat.
Landsat. Thank you. Yeah. Landsat data.
That's a sick project, by the way. My friend did it.
Yeah, that's a good project. Stream geomorphology. Dr. O'Hyrick is always doing stuff down in the channels and always looking for students. So if you guys are interested in looking at how streams evolve or how they change over time, great one. She's also, I didn't list it, but she also is interested in maybe looking at some erosional studies. We've had some recent burns in Thousand Oaks and some other places in the last couple months. I think she's interested in a student possibly doing measurements of erosion. So that's great there. Cause is, again, we have this project that's funded by NOAA, where we mostly work with middle school kids and high school kids, but he's in need of some more assistance with that. So that's great. If you guys are so interested. Is Dulce in this class? No, she's in the other section. But so she's working on that, but we can use other folks. And then Dr. Rodriguez. So we have one shorebird project already going on in here. But again, there's tons of other stuff. If you guys are interested, we could, Dr. Rodriguez could use additional assistance. So if birds are your thing, Dr. Rodriguez is your prof. So he'd love to get some help with that. And again, there's tons of others. These are just a few that some of our fellow faculty suggested that might be good projects. So with that, I'll be quiet. And you guys have any questions? Or you guys wonder about anything about that? Andy?
I could use explain the marine debris real quick again.
Yeah. Can I explain the marine debris? Can I show you the marine debris? Let's see if I can show you the marine. Okay, so I don't want to get into posters and start talking about stuff, but just to give you the rough idea, the idea of this project is monitoring stuff on the mainland and then monitoring stuff out on the islands. One thing we're seeing, which is interesting, is we're seeing a distinct signal of stuff on the islands versus stuff on the mainland. That's big stuff, macroscopic debris, as well as small stuff, micro debris, microplastics and other stuff. Generally, we see more ocean derived or more immediately coming from the ocean waste arriving on the islands, more immediately deriving from land-based sources on our mainland beaches. So what would that mean? That would mean more things like tennis shoes, kids' toys, things of that nature on our mainland beaches, whereas our stuff out on the islands would be more things like fishing gear, more like floating logs, stuff of that. I mean, log would be debris, but you guys get what I'm saying. Interestingly, we see the same thing with micro debris, with microplastics, let's say. We see a greater proportion of the material is pelletized stuff, is essentially either a pellet that fell off a ship or a plastic cup that started off as a big honking plastic cup, and then the sun and the waves broke into a smaller piece and a smaller piece and a smaller piece and a smaller piece. That is more common on our islands in the Channel Islands and in all the beaches we've sampled in Hawaii and in the beaches we've sampled in the Cook Islands and other places. On the mainland, we see a greater proportion of microfibers. So, what the hell am I wearing? I don't even know what I'm wearing. I should know that. But I think this is probably some kind of microfiber stuff. But whatever, your underwear, your hats, whatever they are, if they're microfiber and you guys, if they're synthetic and you put it in your washing machine, those fibers are oftentimes so small they don't get filtered out by the traditional physical filtering mechanism. And so when we discharge that waste, that sewage treatment effluent, it's got microfibers in it. So that we were thinking that's why our mainland is relatively enriched with microfibers. This particular project is focused on large debris, fishing gear and plastic rope and tennis shoes, stuff like that. But it also includes a component using remotely operated vehicles to see if we can monitor this remotely, and micro debris to see how well the micro and the macro debris correlate or don't. So that again is involving doing quarterly surveys out on the islands, and well, quarterly or maybe 3 times a year. Some of the beaches, because of marine mammals, we might not be able to get to in certain times of the year just because of permitting. But as much as possible, quarterly surveys on the hard to get to beaches, which are on the island, and probably monthly surveys on our beaches on the mainland. And so that'll be comparing this data to the data we collected last year and to data that was collected in the late 80s, early 90s. So that's that project. Does that help you, Andy? Cool. Other questions? Other what we've done in the past is we've done various, in this case, these are small rodent traps, string lines of traps, to see what rodents we have in the area. So they're baited, put out opened up, say just before sunset, and then go checked in the morning so the mice aren't, nobody's killed in any of these studies. These are all, if they're trapped, they're live trapped, measured and let go. Most of them are camera traps or evidence that an animal is walking by. And so we have small mammal traps. We have camera traps, which are infrared cameras that are triggered by movement. And so when a hiker or a horse or somebody walks in front, it takes a picture. And then the yellow are sand traps, where you take either sand or just the regular dirt in the area, sort of clear it of rocks and stuff, sieve it, and make it nice and sort of like powdered sugar, and we can see really clearly where the critters have walked through. And so, but all those methods are ways of standardizing the time or the area that critters have gone through. And so we can count, are there twice as many guys over here as over here, what have you. And so some of this was related to the Springs fire. It need not be about that. But the basic question is, firstly, just what critters do we have here right now? Do we have mountain lions here right now? Do we have bobcats here right now? What have you? You can compare that to the previous work of previous students. The other thing, you can look through space. So do we have more guys down here by the river corridor? Do we have fewer guys up here? Do we have more pregnant moms with babies kind of up here, or what have you? So that type of project. While you don't necessarily need special training to do this, like I said, we have a great tracking group here in the county, and they hold quarterly training sessions and monthly practice sessions around the county, where if you guys want, and this is available to anybody, you guys don't have to be associated with the university, you can just be volunteering, and it's a great way to learn what a skunk tracks looks like. And once you start getting better, you can tell if the skunk was walking or if the skunk was jogging. You can tell. These guys are way better than I'll ever be, but they can tell a massive amount from the tracks, which is where a critter leaves an imprint, and sign, which a sign would be maybe a critter scratched up a tree, pooped right here, whatever. So by able to read tracks and signs, you can tell a huge amount about the ecology of these guys, and in particular, how much wildlife connectivity we're seeing. Are critters going from this area to this area, and so this is a viable wildlife corridor, or is this getting not very much movement, and so therefore not that big a player in terms of connectivity between chunk A and chunk B. So that kind of stuff. Great project, really good project. Anybody else?